Welcome to Divorce Mortgage Strategies, brought to you by the Divorce Lending Association, where clarity meets strategy in the financial side of divorce. Whether you're a family law professional, a financial expert, or someone navigating the complexities of divorce yourself, this podcast is your go-to resource for trusted insight into how real property and mortgage financing intersect with divorce outcomes. We don't just talk about houses. We talk about strategic solutions that protect futures. Let's dive in. Today, we welcome host, certified divorce lending professional Karla Kyte, and her guest, licensed legal paraprofessional Charlie Youngblood.
I am Karla Kyte with My Divorce Mortgage Planning, and I am doing a series on the LLPs, that's a licensed legal paraprofessional in the state of Colorado. So this is kind of a newer designation, and so I'm just interviewing as many of them as I can. And today I have Charlie Youngblood out of Pueblo, Colorado, joining us. And Charlie, let's start off just really quickly, just a quick little, give us a little bit of background on yourself, how long you've been in the family law space, and kind of what led up to you getting your LLP designation.
So I got my bachelor's in science with the emphasis in paralegal studies from Liberty University in 2020. And then late 2020, I started working in a family law firm. And then I worked there for 3 years, about 3 years. In the middle of it, I started working part-time for an attorney out of the Springs. And then in May, I went full-time with her. So I've been doing it about 6 years now.
Okay. And when did you get your LLP license?
I got that in January of 2025.
Okay. All right. So you've had it for a good year plus under your belt there. And what do you think? I think everybody has a little bit of a different idea about, well, I mean, consumers don't even understand what the LLP is and what all you guys can help with. So I guess let's start with that. Like, what are you hoping that what do you want the consumers to know about you, about what you do?
Essentially, LLPs can start at the very beginning. They can do unbundled services. So if you just need help filling out paperwork or navigating or advice, we can give legal advice. We can do anything a family law attorney can do for the most part, just at a lower rate. The goal is to move people through the court system quicker, because when you are representing yourself, it kind of clogs up the courts. And some districts like El Paso County, their permanent order hearings are sometimes set out 9 or 10 months.
Yeah.
And so that's really hard on people. And a lot of times they double book the hearings, and you go in and you just argue for which one's more important.
Wow.
10 months is a really long time for families that are going through divorces or custody.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is that there's no real legal help, especially on the eastern part of Colorado and the southern part of Colorado, even regular attorneys. It's really sparse up there. So I know myself and a lot of other LLPs are willing to go, to Huerfano or Taro,
Okay.
places like that. And the goal is to also help not make a divorce and a custody issue so expensive. A
Mhm.
highly contested divorce can cost 50,000, 100,000, and they have cases that you're going to be in court every few months.
Yeah.
I mean, people go broke, they have to sell their homes. So that's the goal with the LLP program, and just to kind of ease the burden in the court system.
Yeah. So I think you brought up something really important there that we didn't talk about the last time we talked was, so you're willing to go to some of these outlying places where they do not have access to very many attorneys, or in some cases, any attorneys, right? And so if you're representing a divorce case in one of those counties, do you then have to, if it's contested and you end up going to court, do you have to appear in their court? Because they don't come to Pueblo for that, right? Like it has to be at the county court in the county that they reside in.
Yeah, in the county they reside in.
Yeah. So I can see where there could be, if you guys as LLPs are willing to kind of hit some of these outlying counties that are, not as populated, right? When you get into the cities, into Pueblo, Colorado Springs, and so on, that's a huge benefit for these clients, right?
So, like, let's say you are going to La Junta or Alamosa and it's over an hour drive. The hours, because an attorney's going to charge you their hour and they're also going to charge you mileage. So that right there, to start the hearing there and back, could be $700 just to drive there and back with an
Yeah,
attorney.
yeah.
So,
And it's not that you're doing it for free, but LLPs are at a more affordable rate. And we're not going to throw out anybody's rates because everybody has their own rate.
Mhm,
But it is typically, and I think it's pretty standard across the board that LLPs are offering their services at a lower rate
mhm.
than the attorneys. I can imagine too, like when a divorce case starts, you don't necessarily know if if it's going to be contested, and you might be able to settle them. Um, Now, if the divorce settles out of court, do you have to actually go anywhere, or can that be handled electronically? Like let's say that you are handling a divorce in La Junta. Would you have to drive down there and appear for anything if you're able to get them settled out of court?
If you can settle it out of court and the other party also has representation, then you can do a decree without appearance where
Okay.
they'll just grant it. If either of the parties doesn't have representation, you have to go in front of the judge so they can ask you the standard, has it been 91 days? Are you expecting a
Yeah.
child? But a lot of times you can also go on WebEx. And I know, like for me, if somebody did live out, I would try to do most of my stuff by WebEx so that I didn't have to bill for travel,
Yeah.
and that's the goal, like with Colorado Legal Services, is try and do as cost efficient as possible.
So I can imagine too, in some cases, that an attorney might not even entertain taking any of these cases just because of the fact that they might have to make that trip out
Mhm.
there to court, right? And so
Right.
you might not even have legal counsel available to you just because they don't want to chance having to make that drive.
Well,
Right.
yeah, a lot of them are just really busy,
Yeah.
and so then there we are trying to get a hearing in with a really busy attorney's calendar, and even in those other counties can be pushed out,
Yeah.
so we have a lot more flexibility to get things moving in.
Okay. I love that you brought this up because that's something that I honestly had not thought of. And so for those of you, I'm in Denver, and so, there's a pretty big concentration of, there's a lot of LLPs up here in Denver, but there's a lot of you that I've been talking to in these, outlying counties and this is huge for consumers to have this accessibility that they've not had before. So, that is great. I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that I know quite a few LLPs that will travel,
Okay.
even out of Denver. I've had one that
Yeah.
I think she's out of Denver or somewhere, but she actually goes to Fremont County.
Okay. Yeah, which I'm
Um,
familiar with as well. So yeah, that's great. Let's talk a little bit about your practice because you have been with a law firm. It's recently dissolved, right? Because your attorney has taken a job as a magistrate. And so I think what that kind of did was it forced you into doing your
mhm.
own thing, right? So talk about that a little bit.
So it had kind of been in the works. I had kind of been considering it, but I loved the attorney I worked for. So I was just kind of thinking about it. And then I knew that she was applying for a magistrate. But when she finally got it, it was here's I got the job, here's when I start. So I'm
Yeah.
scrambling to close down her firm, which had, I think at one point when we closed it, it was like 119 clients. And I'm scrambling to get my firm open because my goal, what I like about working on my own is that I have flexibility with my billing. I can charge a rate that I feel is affordable depending on the circumstances. And a
Hmm.
lot of those other firms, those LLPs, it's just what the firm says. So yes,
Yeah.
it was a rush. I am still working out all the details, but I'm enjoying it. I really am. I am enjoying the freedom. But I have a
Yeah,
lot of freedom with Cody too. You know, she's
that's really
great
nice.
to work for.
Yeah. Well, and I know you're still building this business for yourself, and sometimes it's hard, right? Because you know what you're doing as an LLP, you know how to help people through the divorce process, and now you have to figure out the whole business side of everything and
Mhm.
how to market and all of that that comes along with that. So hopefully this, this interview helps with that just a little bit. Is there a case that has really stuck with you since you've been doing this?
I had a case out of Pueblo County where it was grandparents. It was a allocation of parental responsibilities, so APR. Trying not to use abbreviations.
Yeah.
And parents, and we represented grandparents. And I had originally started that case at my first firm, and somehow they ended up at my last firm. So I had lived this case. It was a 2023 case. And right when they allowed LLPs to start doing the full hearings, the direct, the cross, I did that full day hearing and we did very well. I had the attorney sitting with me. The
Hmm.
judge was very supportive, and I knew that case inside out because I had just lived it for so many years. And I really liked my clients, so it turned out well.
Nice, nice. So would you say that you are very well versed in child custody?
I do feel like I am, but with this, you learn something new all the time. Like I just learned about a new statute for as an alternative to file a contempt, stuff like that. I
Hmm.
mean, there is a lot to learn. And if you go into case law, then there's even more,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
I do. I mean, there's other LLPs that have been paralegals for 20 years, and I think that we all still learn.
Oh, sure. I mean, even in the lending industry, I mean, not only that, but like with more experience, you learn, but also stuff changes all the time. And so you
Mhm.
have to stay up with, new rules, new laws, new guidelines. Um, I think that goes for anything, right?
Well, and we have to do a certain amount of learning credits per
Hmm.
every few years. So usually like when a new child support law just came out on March 1st, they had a CLE for that. So usually they'll send out a thing saying this law is getting ready to go because there's a few big changes coming down that they're trying to work out right now. So they'll do a CLE. We did a huge class up in the Springs with the LLPs and had attorneys there that helped us how to get evidence in, how to build foundation, stuff like that, which I mean, we've all sat through hearings, but it's much different when you're standing at a podium.
Yeah, it gets a little bit intimidating, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you just because the LLP designation is still relatively new, I mean, the first class was inducted in June of 2024. So it's still very new. People still don't know what it is, never heard of it. So if somebody was watching this video, and how would you like to give some clarity around what it is that an LLP can do? I mean, you guys can pretty much do exactly what an attorney can do, but there's a difference. You're not an attorney, and you're not claiming to be an attorney. But I guess how would you explain that to a consumer?
So yes, we can do. I mean, the good thing is that any point in a case where it does become where this is just getting really ramped up and there's this attorney on the other side, like you get an attorney to enter in and work beside you. Like I tell my clients, there are certain judges that I say, they don't like LLPs. I can't win this case. I'll get
Mm,
you up to the hearing. I'll do the mediation, save you as much money as we can until the actual hearing. And we can jump in at any point. If you file your paperwork, but then you're starting to get overwhelmed, LLPs can jump in. We can do limited entries. I just did one to do a mediation for a client.
okay.
She has the gist of the paperwork and stuff, but other side has an attorney, and that's really intimidating.
Yeah, yeah. So you can help clients to mediate.
Hmm.
Okay. And from what I understand, you're offering unbundled services, like, so for an example, if there is a party that's going pro se, will you offer just to review their paperwork before they file or before they finalize?
Mhm.
Just looking for anything. At that point, if a couple hires you, can a couple hire you or just an individual?
Just an individual. We
Okay.
can physically represent a couple, but I have a case where it's not a contested divorce, we just need to
Mhm.
get worked out. And I just told him, I can recommend some other LLPs if she kind of needs guidance.
Yeah,
Yeah, we just can't do both.
got it. So if someone hires you, then let's say they're going pro se, so no representation. They've gone through all of the paperwork, but they just want you to review. You're probably just reviewing for the one client, not for the party. And what exactly are you looking for in that?
So I would still have to have them sign a legal agreement,
Mhm.
but I would be making sure that it depends, I guess, on a lot of times they'll file like their property agreement, but then they don't put anything in it, and that's the tricky thing is like on a sworn financial, they should mirror each other because it's marital. So if you just put your car on there, the court's going to have a hard time because he has a car or she has a car. Everything should mirror so that probably more like advice
Mhm.
to that particular client. And if they go home and they work and they're doing it together, then they'll know my sworn financial needs to match theirs.
Yeah.
Or if you're doing
So,
parenting time, you need to put in there, holidays or decision making, stuff like, I mean, people don't think all these things, but they can come up after the fact. You can have something that's really peaceful and then something happens and then you're back in court because there was no clarification.
I run into that a lot. I run into a lot of clients that are post decree a couple of years and something has gone sideways, as it almost always does. And there is no what if in their scenario because at the time that they went through it, they felt like they were being very amicable and friendly going through this divorce. And now they realize that some of those agreements that they made in that space maybe didn't make the most sense for the long run, right?
Right.
And so it sounds like that's something that you'll kind of clue them into, or if it's not an equitable division, that you
Hmm.
can, because, um, and I've seen this happen. I don't know if you've ever seen it happen. I've seen people be turned away from the judge and to come back and to tidy up their agreement.
Hmm.
And I think people think that as long as they both are in agreement that they won't have a problem finalizing their divorce. And that's not true.
No, a judge has to make it equitable.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the judge will say, because you do have a lot of people where, oh, he gets the house or she gets the house and I'm just walking away. The judge won't do that for the most part. I mean,
Right.
I'm sure there is judges that will do that, but he'll probably realize that they're coming back to court.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like, I didn't get anything out of this.
Yeah. I know I've seen with some of my clients that are really amicable, you can almost tell when there's been infidelity because of that, because of the way that they're going about it in the beginning. But then as soon as like the financials come out and stuff, even if what that person did was incredibly wrong, they still kind of go, well, yeah, but do I deserve to not get anything, right? Or,
Right.
after it's final, come back and say, well, I didn't get anything, right? That wasn't right. So yeah, so we've seen that happen. We know that it happens, and I think that's the importance of having somebody with the legal background and knowledge to look over the agreement before it goes in front of the judge.
And Colorado doesn't care. That's the sad thing. They don't care if you were cheating or Colorado
Right, it's
is
no
just
fault.
a fair state. And so that's another thing that you have to really go with clients is they did do you dirty, but the judge doesn't care. So
Yeah.
that shouldn't be your hill to stand on and die on. What should be is that let's get everything split. Let's do what's best for the kids. Be angry, I get it, but Colorado just doesn't. I mean, I know in the South they'd have at-fault states, and those divorces are insane. They
Mm,
take forever because because you get less of the marital estate when you're the cause of the
and you're
divorce.
at fault.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm sure that is a hard explanation to a client when they are completely blindsided, they're in front of you in tears, and they realize that there's really nothing they can do but just split things up and move on.
Mhm.
And so, like, you guys have to be a little bit therapists also, right?
Mhm.
Along
Yeah.
with this to try to get people to that finish line, and finalize. Yeah.
And
That's
that's what I noticed about starting as a paralegal is we are kind of the therapist. So we know the cases inside and out. So we can tell the attorney, and you have to sometimes say, look, we can't file this exhibit. This isn't appropriate.
yeah,
I know it shows that he was cheating but we take our time and listen, but we still have to tell him, unfortunately, I know you want to file that exhibit. I know you want the judge to see this, but it's just not going to help.
yeah, it's not going to matter. It's unfortunate for sure. All right, so I know you're still building stuff, but how do people find you? And really, if you want to call out any of the areas that you're serving, I mean, you're in Pueblo, but what are some of the areas that you're hoping to serve?
So I will do El Paso,
Okay.
Custer, Chaffee, Huerfano, Park County, Crowley County, Otero, Bent, up in Alamosa, Los Animas, any of those counties. And I hope I'm going to see if they do any of the legal clinics or anything that I could maybe probably not drive for, but help on any of those because those
Yeah,
are also really helpful for pro se parties.
sure. Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. So how do they find you? Do you have your website yet?
I don't, but I am
Yeah.
working with a client's dad who is helping me because
Perfect.
tech is really hard.
Yeah, I'm
And
with you.
I'm starting a Facebook business page and going to do Instagram. But basically, you can call me at 719-369-4548, or you can email me at Charlie, Charle, at southernColoradoLLP.com.
And southernColoradoLLP.com, is that going to be your website?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's
So
going
it's
to be
Southern
your company.
Colorado LLP Family Law. I know it's really redundant, but it has to say LLP in it,
Got it.
and has to designate that it's family.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
that will probably be my name when we get the website built.
Yeah. I mean, you have a unique enough name. I think people should be able to find you. I found you on LinkedIn easily.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So that would also be a good place to find you. And yeah, I mean, Charlie is spelled Charle,
Hmm.
an IE at the end. So, and Youngblood. I mean, I think you're pretty easy to find.
Oh,
So,
good.
hopefully you get some clients coming your way. And Charlie, again, thank you so much for
Oh,
doing this today. And I just wish you the best of luck getting this off the ground. And there's a huge need for what you guys do. And I think you're going to be very successful.
well, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for joining us on Divorce Mortgage Strategies, powered by the Divorce Lending Association. If today's conversation brought you clarity, insight, or inspiration, we encourage you to subscribe and share this episode with others in your circle. For more resources, or to connect with a certified divorce lending professional in your area, visit divorcelendingassociation.com. And be sure to download the free Divorce Strategy Hub mobile app for tools, education, and support designed to guide you through the financial side of divorce. Until next time, remember, in divorce, the mortgage isn't the problem, it's the plan.